Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. Welcome back, everybody. Today, I'm here with Dave Stevens, who is the principal and president. Also, he told me his title is Jack of all trades, so all around, all-star leader with Lida Homes. He is also a partner in Highspire with Paul Antherton and a couple other guys there. So really excited to have Dave on today. Welcome to Builder Stories, Dave.
Thank you very much. Really excited to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so why don't you kick us off with a little bit of background? I mean, maybe we start with, Lida Homes. What do you guys do? How did you get into that in the first place?
Yeah, so Lida Homes is really just one company in a group of companies, which is the Lida Group. And we're a vertically integrated real estate development company that raises capital. We'll take a property through the entitlement phase, get it approved. We'll do the construction for, the townhouse or the condo or whatever the project is. Maybe it's a subdivision, whatever it might be. And either we take it to market or we keep it in our portfolio, which seems to be doing a lot of what we're doing lately, which is purpose-built rentals.
Nice. How'd you get into that?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. So I was a police officer for 30 years, and I had three boys. My wife was a 911 dispatcher, and hockey was extremely expensive. And although, being a police officer paid a reasonable amount of money, it just didn't pay enough for our kids to play at a high level of hockey, high level of lacrosse. So we started building, renovating, selling, building, renovating, just to pay off the credit cards, to be quite honest with you. I had zero business experience. I just did whatever it took to kind of make it happen. And then when all our kids went off to play junior hockey, I turned to my wife, was still working in the police department, and said, "Hey, I'm going to start a company." And she's like, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to start a construction company." And she's like, "Well, you don't know anything about construction." I said, "Okay, well, that's kind of fair." I mean, at that point, I probably built, I don't know, half a dozen or dozen homes and renovated homes and done quite a few jobs. But then she said, kind of further, you don't know anything about business, which, is even a bigger issue. And I said, okay, that's true. At that time, I didn't even know what a profit loss or a balance sheet was. Clearly, didn't even know what the words meant. So I was at a bit of a disadvantage, but I just threw myself into it, and off I went, and started with one job, and before I knew it, we were growing and hiring, and I was pulling out my hair and trying to figure out how to stay ahead of the game. So yeah.
That's awesome. I absolutely love hockey as well. Most people are surprised when I say, even though I'm down here in Texas, I grew up playing ice hockey as well. My parents wouldn't let me play though until I finished my Eagle Scout. So I think it was like age of 15. I got the Eagle Scout just so I could go play hockey, and played on two teams ever since then. It definitely was expensive.
Yeah. It's not a cheap sport, but it's there's no sport like it, so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, man, kudos to you for
Yeah.
diving in and just saying, hey, look, I see an opportunity. Need to go and figure it all out. And it sounds like you learned it on the fly. When
Yeah.
so when was that you started the business?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess we built our first house in 1998, but I was still working as a police officer at that point. And then every couple of years, we would build another house and renovate, and then up to about 2009, which is when I fully incorporated Lida into a company. Interesting story. My very first job was for my staff sergeant on my shift, who is now our full-time property managing our real estate portfolio. He's retired from the police department as well, and now he manages our real estate for us.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I don't want to just assume, but I gotta imagine you probably learned a lot of tough lessons, from starting this with without much construction experience or business experience. Like, what would you say were some of those, like, kind of those tough things that you had to just sort of learn along the way, trial by fire. Probably had a handful of losses, I assume, dealing with various aspects of the builds. I mean, what would you say, kind of looking back, were some of the hardest things for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we're all aware that, you learn more from failure than you're ever going to learn from your successes in life. And that was so true for me and still is true if I was being real. Um, but I mean, my trajectory was really coming from a position of, like, I knew absolutely nothing. I mean, I knew zero about business. So I would go to IBS and just was drinking from a fire hose. I got connected with our Home Builders Association. I got connected with some other builders around here. I was fortunate enough to get into the NHB Builder 20 group. And no matter what I did, it always felt like one of two things was going to happen to me. I was either going to be dead or divorced because I had no clue what I was doing. Um, and it was really, I didn't kind of get my act together until I hired a construction coach, and I started to really understand, the three main prongs of any business, really: sales and marketing, operations, and finance and administration. And everything kind of rolls out from there. But once I started understanding systems and processes, and I got a construction coach, and I hired an EOS implementer to help me become an EOS company. Did I really start to learn that I could do this with hard work and effort, and just taking as many punches as I could to the face, and keep getting up and keep moving, marching forward, and just relentlessly not backing down. And that's really, I often say, like, I'm kind of living proof that if I can do this, um, anybody can. And I've been fortunate to build a self-managing company now, and build a reasonably sized real estate portfolio with a fairly large development pipeline backing that up coming down the road. So I'm grateful for all those failures.
Yeah, no, I mean that's I think in today's age, I mean, people can choose to go to school for many years, or they can go be an entrepreneur and go to the school
Yeah.
of hard knocks. And I mean, but I think it's what I heard is you surrounded yourself by experienced, smart people who had been through what you were going to go through. I mean, the NHB, the Builder 20 groups, going just to IBS and to conferences. You hired a coach. I mean, like, that's exactly how you can take, a much faster path to figuring out what you need to know to be successful. And I feel like a lot of people spend many years, if not, decades, trying to just figure it out all by themselves, and thinking that that's like gonna, just one day wake up and it'll just sort of work. I mean, like, again, like you made that great move to put yourself in the room with the people who could help you. And clearly, I mean, it's, I don't want to call it a shortcut or an easy button, but like, man, like, being able to learn from those is tremendously valuable. And that's why I think, I mean, it's so neat to see, what you and Paul and with High Spire, and I mean, coaching groups, like they like, I can literally see, when somebody gets involved with a group like that, like, maybe give it, a month, couple of months, like, but then just like, boom, the trajectory, just like, it's just so noticeable when you look at the numbers. And like, I think from your standpoint, like, having those mentors and having those people in your network to reach out, like, instead of just like having to learn after the fact, like, you had somebody to consult with, and you had somebody to look up to and say, hey, like, here's the situation. How would you handle that? I mean, that's invaluable.
Yeah, totally. And when you combine that with an approach of, the more I fail, the faster I'm going to learn. and you surround yourself, as you indicated, with people that are prepared to shortcut your learning curve for you. Because the truth is, I retired from the police department in, what was it, 2017, like not that long ago. So I didn't really have a lot of time. Like I had to learn quick, and I put my foot down on the gas and I just went for it. And I'm grateful for my coaches, and you know, in a lot of my credit goes to Paul. I'll be honest with you, because without you know Paul and my Builder 20 group and my EOS group, I would not be where I am today. There's no doubt in my mind. So I accelerated that learning curve exponentially. I said, really is kind of what happened. So um, at one point, I had four coaches. I, I just I just don't know any other way how to do something other than all in. I guess maybe.
Yeah. Well, so I'm curious. So, I mean, like again, from a capital standpoint, how were you able to, to build this capital to be able to invest in and get into the development in the real estate? Because again, that's often a huge challenge for people's.
Yeah,
It's the chicken or the egg problem.
yeah, totally. So it was an interesting experience. This is my wife, by the way. I'm right in the middle of a podcast. Would you like to say hi?
Hello.
That's the Li in the DA. So
Nice.
she's the real boss. I should probably get her to come back in this room. Oh, sorry, that distracted me. Where were we? What were we talking about?
So, about the capital,
Yes,
how did you manage that early on?
yes. So, when I started, I'd already bought a couple of rental properties. I was always very clear on a couple of things, why I was doing this. I was building a construction company that was going to become self-managing, and that was going to give me the capital and feed my ability to purchase real estate assets and build a real estate portfolio. So, really, I was probably about 50 years old when I really kind of started taking this seriously. And between 50 and 59, 60, without wanting to really kind of get into real numbers, we grew just our real estate portfolio, not our entire net worth, to about $80 million
Well,
in a very, very reasonably, 10-year period is reasonably short, with a pretty good equity position in there. Now, one could argue, you got really fortunate with, an upcycle in that time period, which is true. But, I put our group of companies in a position to be successful. So, as my company, a construction company, grew, it gave me the capital to reinvest. Um, I drive a smart car. I don't spend a lot of money on much of anything other than real estate and maybe holidays. Travel a lot now, but um, the reality is I reinvest everything back into real estate, and that's where all the capitals come from. No one's given it to us. I didn't get a gift from anybody. We built it from scratch, from the ground up, self-made, and we continue, forward as we have about, I don't know, I think we're about 100 to 125 million in development pipeline, within the next couple of years. So, yeah, it's just been hard work.
that's awesome. I love it,
Yeah.
man. Again, being self-made, just working hard, making the right moves, making the right investments. I mean, a little bit of luck, good timing never hurts. But I think it's a lot more than that, though. I mean, again, like you got the right people around you, and you built the right
Mm,
team, and
mm,
you focused, and you put it all into it. And I think that's what a lot of people. I feel like at some point, so many people they kind of hit that first rock, that first bump in the road, and feel like they're on this downward spiral and just decide to throw in the towel. That's the easier thing to do, right? Is just quit and go back and get a day job.
Yeah, yeah, there's and maybe I felt like that yesterday. I'm just joking, but I mean, the truth is that being an entrepreneur is going to be some of your greatest moments in your life and some of your worst moments in your life. And if you're not prepared to take the punches, it's probably going to happen. You will probably go back to your day job. But I can tell you, if you're prepared to stand there and take the punches and keep moving forward, the rewards are immense and they're deep and they're personal and they're amazing. And you know, uh, I can't say enough about just the willingness to find out what it is that your why is or your purpose or what it is that drives you. Identify with that on an emotional level and never, ever, ever let that go. And if you can grab onto that and just pull yourself towards that, you will get there. It's just time. Anything is possible. We know that because if someone else has done it, that means it's duplicatable. There's not no one's like none of this stuff is rocket science. Like entrepreneurship, real estate, development, self-managing construction companies. None of this stuff is rocket science. Anybody can do it just with the desire to do it, with put the right people around you and be a willingness to fail. And that's really all it takes.
Yeah.
It's not more complicated than that.
I mean, to some extent, I think you're right, but at the same time, like, really flushing out like who you are and your core values and your mission and vision, like when you
Mm,
have that, like, your ability to attract other
hmm
people who want to join you and want to be part of that and want to help you. Like, I rarely find just a person that's off on their own who's like created this huge, very successful company, but like there's
hmm
always a team behind them,
hmm
and I think like that ability to attract others, whether it's team members, your trade partners, your customers, like that there's this like energy that I think comes when people really know who they are, what they're, what are they all about? What are their values? And so I'm curious, like when you go through that, and I believe you've spoken about core values before. Like what kind of like do you tell others when they need to sort of figure out who they are and the importance of developing that, and then how to use those core values?
Yeah, great question. So I just did a webinar yesterday on strategic planning for Highspire, and in other words, how to build out your yearly plan and what does that look like from start to finish. And I started out the whole discussion, you know, it doesn't start with finances or goals or metrics or KPIs, all of those good things. And we all know that I deal with those things, but it really starts with your core values, because without core values, without a culture, without accountability, without you and your team knowing why you do what you do and the culture behind that, there's no strategic plan that you'll ever have that will actually get in place that's actually going to make a difference. Everything in your company is going to start with your core values and start with why you do what you do or your purpose. It's going to identify who you fire, who you keep, who you hire, you know, how your company treats your tradespeople, how your company treats your clients, how your company treats each other, um, through the difficult times. Why you do what you do is going to bind your company and keep it together, because every one of us, including me, you, everyone, needs something bigger than just showing up for work. You know, and don't buy into the crap that says, that's just bullshit. I just want my paycheck, and you can't create a culture where actually people care about each other and they care about what they're doing, and that's bullshit. You can.
Yeah.
I know that because in police work we had our core values, and I walked by that thing for 30 years and I never knew what it was. No idea. But in our company, in EOS and Highspire, it's hammered into you to understand your core values. And when you don't understand your core values, you have a very loose company. It's often political. People are backstabbing each other, lack of accountability. People are doing whatever they want to do. You're firefighting all the time. But when you clearly identify who it is that you are and why you do what you do, you can build a company that's highly accountable, that has an amazing culture, where people can identify that I'm doing something that is more important than just collecting a paycheck. Sorry. So, for example, our purpose or why or whatever it is you want to call it is to create a wow experience for our team and our clients. And we've had people in here in our company that didn't care about that. And they lasted about a month. And then it became very clear that they're not a good fit. And it was like exit stages left. Go screw someone else's company up. If this is not important to you, if this doesn't identify you and create emotion inside of you, then this is not the right place for you. And it doesn't mean you're not a good person. It doesn't mean you're not going to do a great job somewhere else. It just means you're not a good fit here, and that's okay. So, I would say for anybody, the starting point for building an amazing legacy company is deep, ingrained core values and a purpose or a why as to why you do. And if you can do that, almost everything else will fall in place because everything else is teachable, including
Yeah.
that. That's a little harder to get right. But everything else is teachable. Operations, sales, marketing. I mean, there's a million people that are smarter than me that I bring in every day that can figure that shit out way better than I can.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, again, I think the comp and the salary and paychecks, I mean, that's just table stakes these days. But if you really want to unlock someone's potential, you need to like get them motivated to their core, to figure out like what are they passionate about. Like they need to care. They have
Yeah.
to show up and want to make a difference, not for the paycheck, but because they are
Hmm.
part of a greater cause. And it's a calling. And I've got a team of 60 people here, and I can tell you like that they are not your typical ordinary person who's just coming in to clock in and
Hmm.
clock out. Like they genuinely care about what we're doing. They believe in what we're doing, and they want to be part of that. They want to make a difference. And the number one thing I look for in interviewing and recruiting, I mean, like I want to know that they're passionate. Like they have that
Hmm.
fire in their belly. I don't
Hmm.
believe that I can pay someone enough money to
Nope.
genuinely care and be
Yep.
passionate,
Yep.
and it
Yep.
makes a huge difference.
I couldn't agree with you more. You said it probably better than anybody could. And there, like, the reality is that as I look back on my journey and I go back maybe 10 years and I go, okay, well, if I heard what, I just said, I'd go, oh, yeah, you're an idiot. Like, you can't actually do that. And the truth is, you can. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it doesn't take effort. I fired my leadership team 3 times, not all at once, but I've overturned my leadership team 3 times to get the leadership team that I'm at right now and to get the company that we're at right now with a rock star leadership team, an amazing team. We have a great culture and a high level of accountability where they decided what the bar is in regards to performance, not me. And it can be done. It's just not easy, and you just got to stick to it.
Yeah. Now earlier, you described your company as a self-managing company. Can you
Hmm.
talk a little bit more about like what does that mean, and how did you get there? How did you make that happen?
Yeah. So, through coaching with Paul and Highspire and my Builder 20 and EOS groups and other coaches, I've been working on systems and processes, always with the in, uh, intention of turning the company over to the team or selling it, but not just letting it die. So it's always been my goal, kind of since day one, and uh, you know through just years of failure and getting up and keep innovating and changing and altering and putting systems in place and hiring right people for right seats and letting the wrong people in the wrong seats go, and knowing the difference, and creating systems and processes and onboarding processes, and all of those things get you to a stage eventually, after many mistakes, where you've made enough good decisions, that your company is actually, construction company is up and running on its own. Like, my wife and I just went to Africa for 6 weeks. Um, what an unbelievable place! I highly recommend you go to it if you can. Had an amazing time. Don't ever want to go back again, but I can say it was a great experience, just to go see it once. You go to a place like that, and I'm going off on a tangent here, so I apologize, but you go to a place like that once, and you quickly recognize that we in North America have so much to be grateful for. And we can accomplish anything that we set our mind to do. Whereas, you know, I don't know, 75% of the rest of the world, maybe whatever that number is, got to be up there pretty high. I mean, their life is determined. It's set for them. They don't have the
Yeah.
opportunities that we have. So it's such a waste of life to not give this life everything you got, personally, professionally, in your career, and just become the best version of you. Help your others become the best version of them. And give more than you receive. Like, it's a gift, right? Yeah, I don't know how I got on that tangent, but it sounded pretty cool.
Well, yeah, it does sound cool, but I mean, like, so you were able to go for 6 weeks, to another country. Probably had, I assume, communication, had downtime and or lack there of ability at times. Like, but your business kept running. Your team kept operating. Like, like just the notion of like creating this, this self managing company. I mean, that I see so many people who that's like the dream, but they
Yeah.
never are able to actually make it happen where they can step away and they can go on those extended trips and they can be a little bit more disconnected or go deal with family or whatever it may be. Like
Yeah.
the fact that you have the systems, the processes, the right team in place, like the ability to trust and to delegate,
Hmm.
has what enabled that.
Totally. And in reality, it's probably in total over a year. It's probably about 4 months that we take off a year. And in truth, it's like none of it has anything to do with me. I just listen to the right people. I'm consistent enough to put the systems and processes in place. And it doesn't take rocket science, because I'm certainly not that smart. It just takes consistency, and hiring the right people, and getting help, and investing in yourself. Like, you know, look, it costs money to get good coaching, but if you want to multiply and compound your growth, and and catapult yourself into kind of the next level, there's I mean, I don't know another way around it.
Yeah,
It's about the only way that you can really, um, uh, in my mind at least, anyways, because it's worked for me, is just to go at it with the gas on the pedal as hard as you can, get as much help as you can, and keep driving forward. And some people would say, well, you can't grow so fast that you outpace your systems, and that's a very great statement, and it's true. But I don't care. I just grow, then I
yeah,
just move, and I just I'll figure it out when I get there. And sometimes that mistake, and sometimes it's not. But
yeah.
you
I mean,
can find there's so many people out there that find the excuse, right? Well, I don't have the systems in place, and I can't do this, and I can't do that. you know and you just want happy with where you're at, and that's good. I'm not being critical of that. That's okay.
sure.
But don't say you want to grow.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about, it's about how you, it's about how you look at it, right? Like, I mean, you can see it as just another expense, or you can see it as investment and investing
Mhm.
in yourself, investing in your business, investing in the systems, the processes, like, hiring the right people. Like, I mean, again, I think a lot of this is mindset, right? Like
Mhm.
it takes money to make money, and like you need to make the right investments that can enable that growth.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I understand why people don't want to invest in personal self-development or coaching, call it whatever you want. I was there, because I used to look at every nickel, right? Every nickel, but really you just, you're cheating yourself. You you don't know what you don't know, and you can't expect it to know what you don't know because you don't know. So, the only way to accelerate that is to get help and humble yourself, and submit yourself, to just become the best version of what it is that you choose to be.
Sure.
And when you do that, oh man, the universe just opens up to you if you're consistent with it. But you got to be consistent.
Yeah. So when you coach people on building a strategic plan, what
Mm-hmm.
kind of what are the key focuses there, and sort of what, how do you guide people in terms of planning?
Mm-hmm. I guess the funny part is I'm not a coach. I own part of the coaching company. I don't coach. I'm not sure anybody in the world would ever want me to be a coach. I'd probably mess them up a lot more than they would need to be. Uh,
I think you've done something right, Dave. I don't know. I think a lot of people would love to hear exactly how you did it.
yeah, but I've learned how to do these things just by screwing them up, I guess. So that's why I was on the webinar on how I've been doing our strategic plan for, I don't know, 8 years, 10 years, or whatever it is we've been doing it. But um, a strategic plan, I guess the starting point is start. That's the starting point. I, I, you know, most people, and even some very well run construction companies, don't believe in strategic plans, which is kind of crazy if you ask me. From my perspective, they're going to hit a growth ceiling and they're just going to stop because you can't get through the ceiling that you don't even exist.
Sure.
But so there's kind of like, there's the start, like just do something, write something down. Then there's then there's the good, like what does good look like? We'll hire a coach to help you with your strategic plan. That's kind of what good looks like. And what does excellent look like? Excellent looks like um, hire a coach and bring in your leadership team and the coach for a 2-day or 1-day strategic planning, team building, annual meeting every year, and set your yearly goals, your 3-year goals, and your 10-year goals. Review your core values, review your purpose, review your KPIs, look at your actuals versus your forecasted. You're looking at all your metrics. You're doing a people analyzer on everybody in your company. Right person, right seat. Wrong person, right seat. Right person, wrong seat, because that happens too, right? They're good core values alignment, but they just happen to be in the wrong seat. Because and I've had this happen where we've hired, made a couple hiring mistakes, and Patrick Lencioni's book, The Ideal Team Player, where he speaks about the politically motivated person who just destroys your company because they're extremely smart, extremely hungry, but they're also undermining your whole company along the way, right? So become very smart around your core values and your people alignment, and you'll save yourself many lawsuits and and many issues. But I this it's an hour and a half to really kind of go through detail of what a strategic plan looks like, and it takes, it's quite a bit of work. It's not necessarily fun work, um, but if you look at like why do you do it, you look at your weekly meeting, you're kind of like your weekly meeting, which should be non-negotiable. You either get your arm cut off or you're at the meeting. Like that's the only reason you're not there. So every week you have your meeting, and then you pulse your meetings from week to week to week to week, and you're building towards your 90-day um, quarterly goals. And as you're building there, you get to it. What happens is your motivation starts to come down, right? Because you can only keep motivated for about 90 days. And if you try to extend, your goals longer than 90 days, they're really aspirational versus planning. And there's a gap there between aspiration and a real goal that is has a plan behind it. So the 90-day arc gives you the ability to stay motivated to get there, and it's just done or not done. You get back together with your leadership team, and then you reset your next 90 goals, all marching towards your 1-year plan and your 3-year plan and your 10-year plan, right? So you're all marching towards those plans, and you just keep doing that cycle, weekly to quarterly to yearly, reset, weekly, quarterly to yearly, reset, and you just stick to it, and you run your meetings exactly the same way with the same agenda, same time, same place, and eventually, before you know it, you've knocked so many issues off of
Yeah.
off of your company. You're now going, "Oh, man, this place is actually running without me. I don't need to be here anymore." Which is, I'm at a stage now where it runs better without me. so,
Well,
so yeah.
yeah, I love that. I mean, I think a lot of times people think about, that kind of creating that annual plan. It's just looking at that 1 year, but I love that you're not just looking at 1 year, you're looking at 3, 10 years. I mean, like that again, like the vision there, really does keep everything in perspective of, well, we need to do this, today and this quarter and this year, but like here's the bigger plan that we can't lose sight of, the forest from the trees here. Like we need to remember, there's a
Hmm.
grander plan at play. And I
Hmm.
love that. I think that really is a
Hmm.
great, motivational factor. And you want people, on your team who are thinking long term. I mean, someone who's here
Hmm.
just again for a job this year, that might not be your long term leader. You want people who want to actually see something through all the way to the end, and having that longer term, plan, I think is really, really valuable.
It's huge, and I really think that owners, we don't really understand the impact that has on our team, because they're looking like really growth orientated people. You're rock stars. They're going, where am I in the future in this organization? Whether they're talking to you about it or not, they're already planning their move, and it's going to be with you if you create a very clear picture for them and a very good path for them to go to, but it will be without you if you don't. So, what does my three-year picture look like? Where am I going to be in 10 years? They need to know. They need to hear that. They need to know that they have a future where they can grow into and they can develop, and they can become the best at what it is that they choose to become the best in. And when you provide that path for them, you just automatically are going to start to find, when you combine it with core values and why you do what you do, and a well systemized organized company, you're going to find people are just going to start be attracted to you. And that's when the real sauce, starts to kick in, right? When you start to attract the rock stars.
Yeah. So what is, I'm curious, kind of what has your team's, the growth of your team look like over the last, many years? I mean, obviously, you started, many years ago, but like, how has that team grown and evolved in sort of the different levels? And now obviously you've got a leadership team, and I'm just curious to kind of learn about the size and when you sort of brought on more and more of these people.
Yeah, I mean, that whole process, I would venture to say there's very few people started like this and just went like that. The truth is, at least for me, I can only speak for me, is you go like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. So you're always marching forward. but then you hit something, the economy, or you hit a culture issue, or you hate where, you screwed something up, right? I mean, you misread a situation, and all of a sudden you made a really bad decision that had a really impact on your culture and your people, and you lost some people. So, I mean, we skyrocketed up to, like right out of the gate up to like 15, and then we went up from 15 up to like 25, and then we kind of would drop down again, and then we skyrocketed all up to about like 40, and then we came back down again, and now, I mean, there's very few construction companies in this market right now that, at least in my world, that would say that, we're on fire and we're hiring right now. Most people, this is the perfect time, and that, please don't take this the wrong way, because it does sounds maybe a little bit ruthless, but if they're not a good values fit and they don't align with your purpose, now is the time to shed that. And it doesn't mean that they're not a good person, or they're not going to be a good fit somewhere else, but they could be the best project manager or the best superintendent or foreman or interior designer or estimator in the world. If they're not a good core values of fit, or they don't agree with where, what the culture you're building, they are going to take you down. And they're going to slow you down from building the company you want to build. So, take the opportunity that you have before you, right? All of us have right now. Tighten up your systems, your processes, uh, continually to iterate your core values and why you do what you do. Make sure you have alignment with right people, right seats, and you know, shed the ones that don't align.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so many people struggle with letting people go. Look, I think it's one of the hardest things
mhm,
as a manager, as a boss,
mhm,
that is just it hurts every time to know that you're putting someone else back out on the street. They're gonna have to go figure
mhm,
everything else out. Like they're done. They're out.
mhm.
But like at the same time, like so many people just they kick that can and they think, oh well, if I train them or if I do this or I do that or just something
Yep,
that will change magically one day, they're just gonna wake up and be a much better person that everyone wants
yep.
to work with, and like that's just not the reality. Like,
No,
but like how do you go about like, again, objectively making that call based on, their performance, based on the results? Like how do I mean, again, like if you're a culture fit or not can often be very, qualitative and
yep,
subjective. Like, so
yep,
how do you make those calls?
yep. You know, uh, basically, you just described everything I went through, because I'm a hockey coach. I believe in that I can help people. I'm very to the point. And when someone says to me, like, the scenario is, say you have a project manager who's constantly letting, like, we have a policy where you can't let a budget line exceed $500 at any point in any project. I don't care if it's a $5 million custom home. No budget line can exceed $500 of that budget line without a change work order from the client. And I've had many project managers who don't like to have those difficult conversations. Um, and I would say, look, uh, early on, like, you have budget lines, 15 of them over, and this is going to cost the company money, because what typically will happen, you get the client will go, I didn't approve this additional expense, and I'm not paying the bill. So I got stung like that so many times, and I would keep saying to the people, like, you got to do this, you got to do this. And they would come to the office, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that, and I know I'm supposed to do it. I just got busy. I'm running 3 jobs, and there's just too much to do, and on and on. And I'd get caught in that trap of, he's got a kid and he's got a mortgage and he's a good guy, and we have beers, and we talk about hockey and rugby, and okay, okay, look, just promise me you're not going to do this anymore. And sure as shit, it happens again. So until I read a book called How to Be a Good Boss from Gino Wickman, did I truly understand how to manage people. And I highly recommend Everybody reads that book, and it's a roadmap for understanding that everybody needs to know where their line is. Because if they don't, they're going to constantly cross it. And once you tell the people, here's the line, and if you cross it, we're going to have a conversation. And if that conversation is going to get documented, and if we have the same conversation 3 times, the next time I call you in my office, there's the door. Now, that's hard to do. I understand that. I've been there lots, but the truth is, when you understand that what happens is you have to say to these people, look, I care so much about you that I need you to understand that this performance is not meeting the needs that we have. And if you don't meet these performance requirements, you're not going to be here. And by the third time you've had this conversation, and if you have strong core values and a strong why what you're doing, most people are just going to exit stage left.
Yeah.
The rare ones are going to hang on, and you're going to have to fire them, but you can do it in a way that doesn't burn, the bridge with people by simply saying, look, this is the third conversation that we've had, and we're still having these performance. You're probably better off to go, I say screw up someone else's company. Obviously, of course, I don't say that to them, but I would simply say, you're better off to go somewhere else. And they're probably going to be a lot happier as well,
Yeah.
right? So once people, realize that you set the bar, they and they break it, they expect that you're probably going to let them go. And, you know, shame on you if you call someone in and you fire someone and they have no idea why.
Yeah.
They're not the problem, you're the problem.
Hmm.
So so, you know, read that book, educate yourself, I would say, on setting your bar, and make sure you set up a 3-strike rule and stick to it. Do not deviate from it. You cannot change people that don't want to be changed. You can coach with people, you can mentor people, but if they're constantly breaking through what the accountability bar that they set with your team, they're most likely not a core values alignment. They're not for us for sure. Our core values are team
Yeah.
player, committed to excellence, and do what you say you're going to do. So the minute someone doesn't do something they're going to say they're going to do, or they don't treat their team well, or they do a shitty job, like they're in immediate misalignment with us.
Yeah. So how do you go about, essentially just, you know, evaluating people's performance? Do you do performance reviews? Like how regularly do you have those types of check-ins and give that feedback, and kind of what does that sort of personal, development and growth plan look like for your people?
Yeah. So we have what's called, because we're an EOS company, we have what's called a 555 conversation, and that's done every 90 days. So in that conversation, you're reviewing rocks and roles and responsibilities, and any KPIs or scorecard metrics that they might have, and core values alignment. So you're sitting down and you're essentially just having a conversation. How are things going? Do you have the tools you need? I mean, the whatever tools, I don't mean physical tools, but any tools to do your job properly. How am I doing as your supervisor to support you for success? And you do what's called, in that meeting, we do what's called a people analyzer. It's an EOS tool where you rate them against your core values. And it's a very effective tool. You said earlier it's a very subjective measurement, and that's fair. It is, but it also works. So, you know, they rate themselves, and then you rate them, and very rarely are we out of misalignment, and then we have a conversation around that. So it's not you can't do a performance evaluation every 90 days. It's just a conversation. But that's how you keep your whole team aligned. So every direct report has that conversation with their direct reports. I don't do them anymore. My VP does. He does them with his direct reports, Project managers do them with their direct reports. Our financial controller, same thing. Interior designer, same thing. But what that does is that keeps the culture tight, reinforces core values, reinforces why you're doing what you're doing, and keeps the team intact. Now, once a year, we do a yearly evaluation. Now, that's a little bit different. We're still focusing a little bit on the stuff we just talked about, but it dives a little bit deeper, and it's more focused on the actual job. How did you do, right? What I would encourage people to do is not have that conversation. There's so many templates online on how to do a yearly performance evaluation. None of them are wrong or right. Just do something. um, but don't talk about money in this conversation. This is not a money conversation. This is a performance evaluation. They are two different things. Let the performance sink in, and if it's a performance issue, that makes your money conversation a lot easier in a week or two.
Hmm.
Don't do them together.
Wow, that's yeah, that's really awesome. Very insightful.
Yeah,
Do you how do you obviously you've got a, larger team, at this point, but how do you decide when you need to have, more managers, and people who are, kind of managing people below them versus, continuing to recruit, individual performers, rock stars, people actually doing the heavy lifting.
yeah. I mean, that's just being aware of your people. One of our metrics on our scorecard is your workload rating out of 1 to 10. So every week and every weekly meeting, and everyone in our company has a weekly meeting. They provide a scale of 1 to 10 on what their workload rating is. So 8 is good enough. 9 is red. We have a problem here. We got to talk about this. 10 is I'm redlining, and if you keep me here for a long period, you're probably going to burn me out. 7 is I need more work.
Hmm.
So if we look at our production schedule and we look at our workload rating score, and we talk to our department head, and they're redlining at 10 because they can't keep up, and we have a whole bunch of projects coming in the production schedule, we know we better get ahead of this by like at least 3 months.
Hmm.
That's a starting point. So our production schedule forecasts, uh, workload per carpenter team, workload per project manager, workload per interior designer, and you know, if they get into it, we try to get ahead of it, and it goes the other way around too. Like we're able to forecast out, well, we're going to slow down, right? So what can we do to keep people going if they're a strong alignment with our core values, or do we want to keep them?
Yeah.
Right? But you're always forecasting out in the future, which again comes back to your strategic planning, it comes back to your weekly meetings, comes back to your quarterly pulsing, and your annual. And it just never stops. It's always the
Yeah.
same thing. Like no one's like this stuff is not made up by me. I'm nowhere near smart enough to make this stuff up. This is all stuff that big brain stuff people made it up. I just follow it.
Well, I love it though. I mean, I can tell like, what you have is a really strong pulse on where everyone's at, what's working, what's not working, what needs to be addressed. You're not, again, sweeping things under the rug. You're having the hard conversations. And because you're having such frequent, check-ins and have that system in place that helps you collect the data to know, again, whether it's self-reporting, whether it's through conversations, whether it's your own, evaluation of them, like you're able to address these things before they snowball and become a huge issue. You just cut it off right away. Again, I see so many people that just they don't take the time to have those hard conversations and to say, well, how is everyone doing? And like doing those evaluations and just like it's such a better way to build your business instead of putting all your eggs in one basket and hoping at the end of the day it just all sort of works out magically on its own. Like that's not how you build a great business. You got to work at it.
Y- Totally. And really, it's not rocket science. I've said that a few times. I mean, you just need to care about your people and be honest. Tell them the truth. If they're great, tell them. If they're fucking up, tell them. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay. Have the conversation. Um, just, you know, don't push them out the door and say, hey, go build cool shit on your own and good luck.
Yeah.
That just, that's old school. It don't work anymore. And I'm old school. So,
Well, one of the other things that I really love what you said is, I mean, again, it's not just about them. You said that you ask, well, how am I doing? How can
yeah.
I be a better manager? How can I, improve your day to day, help you achieve your goals? I'm curious. I mean, over the years, like, have you ever received any feedback that you was, that you think was really interesting or surprising, or, again, maybe you never sort of realized that something you were doing was coming off, the wrong way, or just wasn't working as you planned, and you got that feedback from your team?
Oh man, hundreds of times. A lot of it not very flattering, because I'm sure you can probably tell a little bit. Like I'm a bit of a bull in a china shop, right? So I have a tendency to kind of start, pushing people around, and it's not intentional. Like in my heart, if I hurt people, I pain deeply. I don't do it intentionally, but it is my personality. And so it's taken my team and me a lot of years to be able to say, hey, it's okay to go to Dave and say, you're a fucking idiot. And these are the reasons why. And that's okay. Like,
Yeah.
I'm open to that. Now, I, I, I I would encourage you to come with some facts and some data and something to back up that statement, because I have a tendency to push back a little bit respectfully. But we have a very open, honest, collaborative environment, and you only build those uh, environments by being real with
Yeah.
with each other and caring about each other. The five dysfunctions of a team, Patrick Lencioni's book. I cannot tell you how important that book is. It's an amazing book. It's so true. And if you just, we do that exercise every leadership team annual, everything. We just write out uh, the whole exercise, and then we work on some team building stuff. Now, not the stuff where, hey, let's lift each other up over the wall, and not that type of stuff. Although the carpenters go out and do all that stuff. I'm talking about the leadership level of your personal story,
Yeah.
right? Your lifeline story, the real stuff, right? Some people might say this is embarrassing, but I mean, I at times in our leadership team, and some of those stories, I've cried deeply. Other people in my leadership team have cried deeply, but we got to know the inner person on our leadership team deeply, and we can be real with each other and
Yeah.
direct and build an emotional bank with each other to the point where I have to say to him, to my senior project manager, hey, dude, like if you're not staying on top of your budget, I mean, you can't expect the project managers. Like
Yeah.
this is unacceptable, and you can't do this again. It's got to stop now.
Yeah.
And I can have those conversations, or very difficult conversations, and I can burn that emotional bank down because I'm always building it back up again,
Yeah.
right?
I love that,
So,
and I think it's such a great, piece of insight there. Like, I mean, being open, honest, transparent, vulnerable. I think, and there's been multiple times where, I've been just, so grateful and overwhelmed, and tears are coming down my face, and I'm, talking to the whole team, and like, I think it's those moments though that really do, they show everyone how much you deeply care, and having that ability to share that and show that. I mean, you earn so much respect and trust
mhm,
and goodwill with your people when you can be vulnerable and when you can go to them and say,
Hmm.
hey, like, I want you to come to me and tell me if I'm screwing up or if there's something I could do better. Like, I think the
Hmm.
best leaders are the ones who can put, their egos aside and just, be extremely humble, down to earth. Like, look, I'm a human too. I can screw up, I can make mistakes. Like, tell me if you see something that I can do better. Like, I'm all ears, and I think
Totally.
those are the people who are constantly improving and trying to do better. And like when your team sees that, that's the leader that you want to work for, is the person who is
Hmm.
a real person who
Hmm.
understands and wants to also grow, not just, dictating orders and, thinking everybody else is going to just go figure it out on their own.
Hmm.
Like, you want to be there hand in
Hmm.
hand, working together to build the
Yeah,
best company and the best business.
totally. And when people, what is that saying? Like, don't tell me how much you care, show me,
Yeah.
right? Like when you show people that you truly actually do care about them, um, it's a game changer, right?
Yeah.
And mean it. Like, don't. And I'm not saying like, fake it, because that's 911 bad stuff. Mean it, right? And people will go to war for you and your team and each other when they feel that they belong to something that's bigger than them. I'm not talking about going to the moon or saving the world or going to Africa to build housing. All those are all good things. I'm just talking about, identifying what your purpose is, whatever that might be. Maybe your purpose is, we are build, healthy homes for our clients. And when you get everyone on your team focused on building healthy homes for our clients, they feel like they belong to something
Yeah.
bigger than just, how much money do we make last week?
Dave, look, this has been extremely insightful. I really appreciate you sharing, a little bit of your story and how you've built your business. I mean, again, you joke, but man, like, you have done something incredible, and I think that,
Uh,
your wisdom, that you've shared here is very, very, valuable, and I really appreciate it. I'm curious, just in kind of final closing here, like, if you had to give, our audience and people who are earlier on in their careers, aspiring to build something like you, like, what's that one piece of advice that you'd like to leave with everyone out there?
yeah, I was afraid you were going to ask me a question like that. um, I think it's two things. Um, Fail as much and as fast as you can, but get coaching. So I qualify that. Like, you don't know what you don't know. Uh, um, and I'm living proof. I'm not for just for a second saying that we have the perfect company, because I don't think there ever is a perfect company. But I'm living proof that anybody can accomplish a self-managing company. I'm living proof that anybody can build a development real estate portfolio. It just takes relentless persistence, and a willingness to fail. And I think yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, Dave, I really appreciate it. It's great advice. Again, you've given so many, golden nuggets here for everyone out there. So thank you for coming on, for sharing this. Really appreciate your time. And yeah, I can't wait to see where your business keeps going with you, in Africa or on the sides or wherever you're at. Kudos to you, man, for making it happen.
Awesome, dude. Thank you very much.
All righty, have a good
All
one.
right. Cheers, you too.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.